Now we're going to be focusing on coherence and cohesion. Hopefully you had a chance to look at the signposting animation that we looked at when we looked at the smooth flow through the essay. If you haven't seen that, go back and make sure you have a look at that before watching this video. In this video we're going to follow on from that, and we're going to look at some specific examples of good coherence and cohesion in cause and effect essays, cause and solution, and effect and solution essays.
So now we're going to talk about Task 2, writing coherence and cohesion. And we're going to analyze that as we've been doing with the task response. Right now we'll look at cause and effect, cause and solution, and effect and solution essays in Task 2 writing. So we will, as we've done before, compare high-level samples with common errors in coherence and cohesion. So first of all, of course, we need to understand, and you need to consider carefully how you are going to be marked in the IELTS test for these two things, coherence and cohesion. So first of all, coherence is the logical organization of your answer. Now, in Task 2, this is different to Task 1 because it depends on how your ideas are organized, and you have a lot more flexibility and how you can organize ideas. But it also refers to the use of paragraphs and organization of your answer within a paragraph. A part of coherence too is linking ideas together and connecting paragraphs and ideas within paragraphs. Cohesion is more about connecting ideas together in terms of things like sequencing, these kinds of words. Firstly, in addition, a further point, or more importantly, which is very similar to linking of ideas really. And then it's between paragraphs and also sentences. So in the cohesion idea, it's really thinking about sentences. And cohesion often relates to connecting previous ideas together, whereas coherence is looking forward and referencing and substitution, both the over and under use of those two things. The main things to think about in terms of coherence is phrases that guide the reader forward through your essay. And cohesion is ideas words and phrases that connect ideas together. So just to repeat that, coherence guiding the reader forward through the essay, and cohesion connecting ideas together. Now let's have a look at some of those things in a good sample essay now, so you can be really familiar with what you need. So this is signposting or linking. This is the same question you've looked at before. The percentage of overweight children has increased. Why and how is this affecting the children? So this is the cause effect essay. So we see in the second sentence of the introduction here, the thesis statement, that the writer is now directly answering this question and telling the reader what will come. So guiding the reader through the rest of the essay. And here we see the first body paragraph, so that why connects directly to this paragraph. And then using words like for example as well, that guide the reader through this paragraph. Then the second body paragraph is talking about the effects, so that's telling the reader what's happening in this paragraph, and then straight away there's another signposting word there with firstly, so telling the reader this is the first point. There are other linking words, but we're just focusing on some simple ones and for a start here. And then in the final paragraph, just the words to sum up, which is telling the reader in this paragraph I'm going to be summarizing the main ideas. Now let's have a look now at some good examples of cohesion within the paragraph. So now, rather than looking at the whole essay, we're going to be looking inside paragraphs. So as we look here, we see in the middle of this paragraph, this phrase. This problem is not only due to eating out, but also the type of diet many children have at home. Now, this is a very good cohesive device because it's doing lots of things to do with coherence and cohesion. It's linking the previous idea to the next idea. So a lot of candidates will just write a word here like furthermore or secondly, and that's okay. But this is a higher level example of the same thing. So that phrase that's outlined there is exactly the same as the words in addition or furthermore, but it's a higher level example of it. Now we see something very similar happening in this paragraph over here with the not only this, which is referring to the past idea and then linking forward to the next idea. Plus, if you don't think you have enough ideas, a big, long, cohesive device like this is very good, because then you're going to extend your word count as well. So those are the two main phrases we want to focus on there, the two phrases in the middle linking that paragraph together. So here's another couple we could have used, just so you can get familiar with some of the language and the way that you could also do this. In addition to eating out, another cause is the food children eat at home. Now that's just different language, but doing exactly the same. The other one is, besides physical problems, overweight children may also experience bullying. So this is exactly the same as the linking phrase in the second body paragraph. Just want to show you those examples. What students and candidates often do is they just use those first couple of words. So they'll say in addition, or they'll say besides, but a higher level will explain that more clearly. So to get a high mark in terms of coherence and cohesion, this is a good thing to be doing. Cause and solution language to indicate a point. So this is similar, the same idea of signposting, but now we're switching essays. So this essay now is the cause to the cause solution essay about youth crime. However, we are looking for similar things. Let's look at what is under these boxes and now have a think what words they might use here to guide the reader through the answer. And here are the possible answers. So the first reason is over here. Now there are other words you could have used to begin initially. One of the main factors is connected with. Now there's another factor down here. They could have used the fancy language like you just saw. Besides the previous idea, there is also another idea. In the other paragraph, because they're switching to solutions, that first sentence must include some words there to guide the reader through that paragraph and to tell the reader we are now switching to solutions. So they've got firstly and also. Now also is an underrated word. It's a very good word to use in your essay. Parents also. Now that just means a second idea. We could say in addition or furthermore or a fancy phrase, but sometimes one word like that is fine. Really good. Now, some of these words are not necessary. Sometimes we can take a few of these words away. What words do you think would be unnecessary? So as we come across the first body paragraph, those two phrases, yeah, actually we do need them. They're pretty important to guide the reader through it. This, however, is not really necessary, because as soon as we say there are ways to tackle such problems, the such problems refers back, and the way to tackle is telling the reader this is now solutions. The firstly there is not necessary though. Either we could write one. As soon as we use the word one of the ways, that's enough. That's guiding the reader through it. It's telling the reader we're going to be talking about it immediately. So those two phrases there in this body paragraph are not really necessary. The also actually is necessary. It's a small word, but it tells the reader clearly, here is another idea. So that's good, the word also. So let's now think about referencing and substitution. These are, remember, are words that refer back to previous ideas, previous people or previous ideas. So these are mistakes. We're going to now highlight some referencing mistakes and see if you can think about what the correction should be. Now the them's not quite right there. What should it be? So this essay will discuss the reasons for these problems or these crimes, might be okay, and provide some solutions. So as we go through the middle paragraphs, have a look at these referencing words. What do you think might be the mistakes? We'll give you a clue. One of them is okay. Yeah, it could have been for these problems, or it could have just been this in that first body paragraph there. In the second body paragraph, that you notice a lot of these mistakes are related to the noun that they're referring to. So, or connected with. For example, here, the this should be these days. Okay, because we've got days with an S, so that's plural. The next this is good. There's nothing wrong with that one. That's the one good one. Down the bottom means that those who are poorer, not them, those. And in the next part of that sentence, other people or others, not other person. So again, the plural noun mistakes coming through here, or not understanding the connection with the plural noun. However, there are ways to tackle such problems, not the S, again, the same thing. In this situation, because we could be talking about youth crime, which is uncountable, we can say this problem or such problems, because in the previous essay, we've mentioned more than one problem. Down the bottom there, they child, again, this is the plural noun problem, their children's actions. And a similar problem repeating again in the summary. So these kinds of problems, you see them repeating because this is what happens when candidates don't get it quite right. They don't just make one mistake, they'll make consistent mistakes throughout the essay with referencing and substitution. And this is also true in terms of grammar. And you need to, now at this point, let's move on and look at effect and solution essays, and this time about the idea of overpopulation. So now we're changing essays and we're looking about the effects and the solutions for this problem. So this is not a cause solution essay, this is an effect solution essay, and it has asked the reader to talk about two things, governments and individuals. So this time we're going to have a look at signposting. We're going to come back to signposting again. And these are the ideas, remember, that are leading forward in the essay. So what words that guide the reader forward through the essay do you need for 1 and 2 there? Now let's just notice them. So this is similar to what we looked at in the very first essay in the start of this video. So we've got a word in the start there in the thesis statement telling the reader what's coming. Then we've got a word in the middle of the body paragraph talking again about linking ideas together. Another serious consequence, because this is effect. It's good to use the effect language there, consequence. Then as we move around to solutions, now we notice they're guiding the reader through here very simply this situation. Firstly, secondly, for example. In the third body paragraph, we're not focusing on anything really, but we know it's a change because they're talking about individuals here. And then we've got in conclusion down the bottom, so telling the reader this is the conclusion, and the yet to contrast between the ideas. Let's now go again back to the referencing and think this time these are not mistakes. This time they are good referencing and referencing words. What do they refer back to? So we're not looking at anything in that middle paragraph, the first body paragraph. Now, when we look at this naturally paragraph, can you notice the amount of referencing in there? Do you think this is a good idea? No, it's not. It's really not good when we see all this referencing, these problems, to do this, if the measures described above. That's good substitution language, but there is a problem with all this referencing and substitution, because it will. So if everything in one paragraph is referring to a previous paragraph, that means there are no new ideas. You can show the reader that you don't have many new ideas if you're overusing referencing. So let's now do a quick review of what we've discussed just now. So we have been talking about coherence and cohesion. That's been the main focus. We started out by looking at cause and effect. Remember, the blue is good. We looked at some good signposting, which is leading the reader forward through the essay. We also looked at good cohesion within paragraphs. In the cause and solution, the second one, we looked at language to indicate points, which is similar to signposting. And then we looked at referencing and substitution, but this time some errors. In the effect and solution, you had a chance to practice signposting. So again, it was very similar to the cause effect essay. And then you noted language referring back, the referencing and substitution. So again, as we'll be doing in task 1, when we practice task 1 writing, we're focusing on specific points. You can go through and have a look at these things in the other essays as well. Look and think if you think there was too much referencing, or what other words can you use for. So thank you for listening. The next essay will be about coherence and cohesion as it relates to argument essays, and this can be quite tricky.